have 6 o'clock.
We're live.
Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the board work session, June 22nd, 2020. Thank you so much for joining in. If you're joining us virtually, thank you for all of the members who are in. And what I will do is I'm going to call to order, and I'm going to start with doing roll call because some people may be listening, some people may be watching. Starting with District 1, Jasmine Bowles.
Present.
District 2, Mark Christmas.
Present.
District 4, Victoria Williams.
Present.
District 5, Ophelia Burrows.
Here.
District 6, Mary Baker.
Present.
District 7, Judy Johnson.
I'm present.
District 8, Vice Chair, Dr. Alika Anderson.
Present, Madam Chair.
And District 9, Ben Straker.
Present.
And Board Chair Jesse Gorey, District 3. At this time, I will read the ethics statement. In accordance with Board Policy BH, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of such conflicts. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of such conflict with respect to any matter are scheduled to come before the Board of Education at this meeting or appearing on our proposed agenda? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict and refrain from participation in the matter involved. Okay, seeing or hearing none, we will adopt the agenda at this time. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I make the motion that we adopt the agenda.
Okay, it has been moved by Ms. Baker and seconded by Dr. Alika Anderson. And since there are a lot of people in, I can't see everybody on this view. I will go down the row again. Jasmine Bowles, District 1.
Yes.
Mark Christmas, District
Yes.
2. Victoria Williams, District 4.
Yes.
Ophelia Burrows, District 5.
Here.
Okay, is that a yes, Ms. Burrows?
Yeah.
Okay. Mary Baker, District 6.
Yes.
Judy Johnson, District 7.
Yes.
Dr. Alika Anderson, District 8.
Yes.
Ben Straker, District 9.
Affirmative.
And that would be a yes from Jesse Gorey. So it is a unanimous vote. The agenda has been adopted. At this time on our agenda, we have board recognitions. And I am going to start with Chairman Jeff Turner.
All right, good evening, everyone. Hopefully everybody's doing well and staying safe. I understand that we have a young lady by the name of Sherry Smith who's going to retire after many, many years of loyal and dedicated service to the Clayton County Public School System. So I thought it would be definitely fitting to honor her with a proclamation to let her know that we are not only proud as a school system to have had her as a employee, but for all the work she's done for all of our kids throughout the years. So with that being said, at this time, I will present a proclamation on her behalf. Proclamation states Clayton County Board of Commissioners celebrates Sherry Smith's retirement. Whereas Sherry Smith graduated from North Clayton High, then attended Clayton Junior College, which is now Clayton State University, and Georgia State University. Prior to working at the Clayton County Public School System, she was a stay-at-home mom until her children were in middle and high school. And whereas Ms. Smith began working for CCPS in August of 1996 as the attendance secretary at Lovejoy High School. In February of 1998, she began working as the receptionist for the maintenance department. And in August of 1998, began working for the purchasing department. And whereas in April of 2004, Sherry began working at the administrative complex as the executive assistant to the chief financial officer. In 2005, while working for the chief financial officer, she took on the duties of assistant to the Board of Education. From September 2009 to June 2016, she continued the duties of assistant to the Board of Education while each school year working as the executive assistant for either a deputy superintendent, chief academic officer, or chief of school leadership and improvement. And whereas in July of 2017, Ms. Smith began working as the executive assistant to the superintendent while still holding the duties of assistant to the Board of Education. Ms. Smith has held the duties of assistant to the Board of Education under the direction of 7 superintendents. Now, therefore, I, Jeffrey E. Turner, Chairman, on behalf of the Clayton County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim June 30th as Sherry Smith Day in Clayton County, Georgia, and urge all citizens to celebrate Ms. Smith's retirement and the lasting contributions she has made with Clayton County Public Schools and Board of Education. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Clayton County, Georgia, to be affixed this day, 30th day of June in the year 2020. Jeffrey Turner, Chairman. Again, congratulations to Ms. Sherry Smith. Yes. And you have honored us, and now it's time for you to get some much deserved time off. So
Thank
God
you very much. Thank you.
Yes, Ms.
It's
Sherry.
been my pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I appreciate the time to do that. Again, we all are in a time where employees usually don't stay around 24, 25 years. So anytime you have a valued employee, we definitely need to make sure that we show them that they are valued and appreciated. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you, Chairman Turner, and I forgive me because I did skip something. So just hang around for a minute after the fact. Mr. White, can you do? Wait a minute, we got lightning coming in my neck of the woods. You all weren't supposed to hear that. Mr. White, please do your introduction. I'm sorry, I just skipped over. I was so anxious because you know that Mr. Turner has, his schedule is so busy. I was just trying to get him in and out. But do what you were supposed to do, sir.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Beasley, and everyone watching online. We are here talking about Sherry Smith. At an earlier board meeting, we paid tribute to our class of 2020 retirees with a special recognition to Ms. Smith, a member of the 23-year club. Well, as you already heard from Mr. Turner, we also have another special recognition being provided by Representative Rhonda Burnett, the chairman of the Clayton County Legislative Delegation. So I now turn it over to Representative Burnett.
Correction, chair lady.
Oh,
Thank you. And I too want to offer you congratulations, Sherry. Being a retiree myself, you will love it. And so I hope that you enjoy retirement. House Resolution 1515 by Representative Burnett of the 77, Schofield of the 60th, Scott of the 76th, Stovall of the 74th, and Douglas of the 78th, and others. A resolution recognizing and commending Sherry D. Smith on her outstanding public service and for other purposes. Whereas Sherry D. Smith has diligently and conscientiously devoted innumerable hours of her time, talents, and energy towards the betterment of her community and state, as evidenced dramatically by her superlative service with Clayton County Public Schools. And whereas Sherry began working with Clayton County Public Schools as a school secretary at Lovejoy High School in 1996. And whereas in 2005, she moved from the maintenance department to the central office and began working as an executive assistant in business services, a position she held until 2009, when she became executive assistant to the deputy superintendent. And whereas in addition to her work for the deputy superintendent, she began serving as clerk of the Clayton County Board of Education, a post she has held to this day. And whereas Sherry began working for Dr. Maurice J. Beasley in 2016, joining him in the superintendent's office following his approval for the position in 2017. And whereas she is a person of magnanimous strength with unimpeachable reputation for integrity, intelligence, fairness, and kindness. And whereas Sherry has served with honor and distinction with Clayton County Public Schools, and her strong ethics and unyielding commitment will be sorely missed after her retirement at the end of June 2020. And whereas it is abundantly fitting and proper that the outstanding accomplishments of this remarkable and distinguished Georgian by appropriately recognized, now therefore be it resolved by the House of Representatives that members of this body recommend and commend Sherry Smith for her efficient, effective, unselfish, and dedicated public service to the state of Georgia, congratulate her upon the grand occasion of her retirement, and extend the most sincere best wishes for her continued health and happiness. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the House of Representatives is authorized and directed to make an appropriate copy of this resolution available for distribution to Sherry D. Smith, in-house, read and adopted June 15th, 2020, William L. Riley, the clerk of the House of the Representatives. So now you are part of Georgia history. So you can come down to the House whenever you like to, and you'll see it, but I'll make sure you get a copy of the resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Purnell. Y'all are so sweet to me. I hope you all know how much Clayton County means to me. And I'm going to continue to follow all the successes for years to come, because it holds a very, very special place in my heart and always will. And you're all very special to me. And you don't know how much I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chairman Turner and Chairwoman Brunel, for joining us this evening and giving these accolades to Sherry Smith. This is Sherry's last meeting, I believe. So,
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Yes. So we're so happy that you all could join us this evening. It is really appropriate. So at this time, we have done our board recognitions. Thank you, Mr. White, for being patient with me. I was just getting a little ahead of myself. I was happy for Sherry. We do need to have executive session. And you have information regarding executive session. So at this time, we do need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Straker.
I second it.
Okay, now I can't, my view. Tell me who that
I
is.
second it, Victoria Williams.
Thank you, Ms.
Miss-
Williams. It has
Ms.
been
Goree,
moved.
be sure and state the reason for your executive session.
Oh, yes, I sure did forget, Sherry. You know, I'm forgetting everything so quickly. We need to have executive session to go to discuss personnel recommendations and a potential property, or I would say, I'm not sure if there would be litigation. Where are you at, Mr. Doyle? Is Mr. Doyle on this?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, how should I make sure I have the right?
Permitted personnel and permitted real estate
Real
matters.
estate.
Okay, I'm sorry. I want to make sure. Personnel and real estate matters, please. That's the motion to.
I don't have any litigation, Madam Chair, unless someone has something I don't know about, but it's just those two.
Okay, thank you. Those are the two. So at this time, I'm going to do a roll call again it has been moved and properly seconded. We go into executive session to discuss personnel matters and to discuss property issues or acquisition of real estate. So I'm going to need you. I can't see everyone because there's so many on this call. I'm going to go by the districts again. Jasmine Bowles.
Yes.
Mark Christmas.
Yes.
Victoria Williams,
Yes.
Ophelia Burrows, I can't see Miss Burrows. I'll go down to Miss Baker,
Yes.
Miss Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Straker.
Affirmative.
That would be a yes for me. I'm unsure about Miss Burrows. I
Ms.
can't.
Burrows
Miss
is right here.
Okay, is that a yes, Miss Burrows?
Yes.
Okay, so it is a unanimous vote. We will enter into executive session. So at this time, you may want to turn your cameras off, but we have another way of communicating. So please check your devices for the other way of communicating. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be back from executive session.
lightning.
Okay, Ms. Goree, we're live.
We're having a storm.
Right.
We're
Ladies
ready,
and
Ms.
gentlemen, we are back from executive session where we discuss personnel issues and real estate. At this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Beasley to discuss personnel recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. We have 3 recommendations today. The first recommendation is for the position of Assistant Principal at Brown Elementary School. We'd like to recommend Dr. Sakina Burrows.
I will take, I'm gonna make these, I'm gonna call on people to make these motions. I'm gonna try to do it based on, well, this one based on district. I believe this would be Ms. Bowles.
Yes, I would like to please make the recommendation for Ms. Sakina Burrows to become the assistant principal at Brown Elementary School, where I attended.
Okay, Dr. Anderson,
I second the chair. I second the motion, Madam Chair.
all right, it has been moved and properly second that we accept the superintendent's recommendation of Dr. Sakina Burrows as the assistant principal of Brown Elementary School. At this time, I will call the roll again for a vote. Jasmine Bowles,
Yes.
Mark Christmas,
Yes.
Victoria Williams,
Yes.
Ophelia Burrows,
Yes.
Mary Baker,
Yes.
Judy Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Straker.
Affirmative.
And that would be a yes for me. So it is a unanimous decision, 9-0, that we accept the superintendent's recommendation.
Thank
So
you.
Ms. Burrows, if you're out there in virtual land, congratulations.
Congratulations, Dr. Burrows. Our next recommendation is for Director of CTAE. We'd like to recommend Mary Shepherd.
Okay. This time I'm going to ask for Mr. Christmas, since that may be someone that was in your area at one time.
I move to accept the superintendent's recommendation for CTE director. No, I forgot her name. Let me look at my, what's her
Mary
name?
Shepherd.
Mary Shepherd.
Okay, do I have a second? I believe I see Ms. Johnson.
I second.
All right, it has been moved by Mr. Christmas and seconded by Ms. Johnson that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for director of CTAE, Ms. Mary Shepherd. Again, we'll do the roll call for a vote. Ms. Bowles,
Yes.
Mr. Christmas,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Burrows,
Yes.
Ms. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Anderson, Mr. Straker,
Affirmative.
and I will say yes. I'm not sure if Dr. Anderson stepped out or not, so we'll just say it's right now 8-0. So congratulations, Ms. Shepherd, for being director of CTAE. All right. Dr. Beasley.
The last recommendation we have is for the coordinator of technology. And we're recommending Andy Sykes.
All right. Let's see, let's see, technology. I'm going to have Ms. Williams make that motion.
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for Andy Sykes for technology.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Yes, ma'am.
I second it.
Okay. Who second? Was that Ms. Dr. Anderson or Ms. Burrows?
Burrows.
Okay, Ms. Burrows, okay. It has been moved and properly seconded that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for Andy Sykes to be the coordinator of technology. Roll call again. Jasmine Bowles,
Yes.
Mark
Yes.
Christmas, Victoria Williams,
Yes.
Ophelia Burrows,
Yes.
Mary Baker,
Yes.
Judy Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Anderson,
Yes.
Ben Straker,
Affirmative.
and that would be a yes from Jesse Gorey. So that is a unanimous vote of 9-0. Congratulations, Mr. Sykes.
Mr. Sykes, congratulations. And Madam Chair,
Dr. Okay, I'm
that
sorry,
concludes
Dr.
our
Anderson.
recommendations.
Dr. Anderson, we didn't get your vote.
Yes.
Just that we might want it for
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Shepherd. Was that a yes?
I said yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I said yes.
Okay, so Ms. Smith, can you correct the minutes for Dr.
Yes.
for the last vote?
Yes, ma'am. It's so noted.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm currently having a technology malfunction here, as usual. At this point, we are on the agenda, and we want to approve the minutes from the board work session, May 26, 2020, and for the board meeting, June 1st, 2020. Do we have any corrections to be added to the minutes?
No, ma'am. None at this time.
Okay. Hearing or seeing none, we will accept the minutes from the board work session, May 26, 2020, and June 1st, the board meeting, June 1st, 2020, as presented. We will now move to updates to the board, and I will turn that over to Dr. Beasley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we present, I'd just like to make a statement. Tonight, our divisions of school leadership and improvement and curriculum instruction and assessment will be presenting the results of several months of intensive research, strategizing, and planning related to the reopening of schools. All aspects of the district's leadership team have been engaged in multiple planning meetings with the intent of creating a comprehensive process to reopen our school system and return our students for the 2020-2021 school year on August 3rd. This work has been grounded in providing our students and their families, as well as our staff and their families, with a safe place to learn and to work. The overall reopening plan, which is tailored to fit the specific needs of Clayton County, aligns with COVID-19 pandemic guidelines as shared by federal, state, regional, and local health and education officials. Furthermore, our reopening plan has been informed by parents and staff and soon-to-be students. Perception surveys have been taken to gauge feedback from internal and external stakeholders. The Board of Ed will see that our plan is grounded in data and flexibility given the evolving nature of this pandemic. Please know that our team will carefully monitor our schools, our classrooms, our facilities, our vehicles, and our employees to ensure that we will maintain this level of safety in the coming days and months. Rest assured that we will also continue to monitor all statistical data regarding the pandemic so that we can proactively act should the need arise, as we also continue to collaborate with local, national, regional educators, leaders, and health officials to implement the best and most feasible safety measures to reopen our schools. As a reminder, school stakeholders are encouraged to stay connected and informed of the latest developments concerning school reopening, summer activities, meal serving sites, and much more by visiting the district's website, email updates, social media platforms, and tuning in to the Facebook Live presentation, which another update will be tomorrow, June 23rd at 1 p.m. And the next two updates will be in July, Tuesday, July 7th, and Tuesday, July 28th at 1 p.m. I now turn this presentation over to Dr. Simpson, Dr. Lee, and Ms. Charmin Johnson for their presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Beasley. Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Dr. Beasley, members of the board. It won't add to that elaborate and a phenomenal description of what that presentation is going to look like from Dr. Beasley, as he just stated. I'll turn it over this time without belaboring the point to Dr. Lee and Ms. Johnson, who will share with you some highlights of the options that we'll be presenting before you this evening. Dr. Lee.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Simpson. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Dr. Beasley, board members, community staff. At this time, I am going to share my screen And I'm going to ask that Dr. Beasley, Dr. Simpson, or Ms. Johnson lets me know if I'm going in and out. The weather's pretty bad over here where I am. So let me know again if you can't hear me. Okay. And let me present. Dr. Beasley, can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. Thank you. And I can hear you.
Okay, great. So again, good evening. And as Dr. Beasley shared, Ms. Charmin Johnson, Assistant Superintendent with Cluster D, and I will be presenting our district's reopening considerations for school year 2021. We know you've had a chance to review the presentation, so we are going to keep the information high level, but hopefully clear enough for those listening to get an idea of our reopening plans. So we'll describe the strategic actions for ensuring that our students, as well as our staff members, return to a safe and secure environment and a great learning environment. And we'll also present the instructional delivery options that we're proposing. We hope that this presentation, along with Dr. Beasley's live sessions, will equip you board members as well as other stakeholders with the information you need to respond to questions that may be coming from our community regarding our reopening plans in the fall. In addition to the presentation, you receive these helpful handouts, and they provide further details that may not be presented today, this evening. This slide and the following slide highlight the organizations and collaborations that have informed our district's return to school guidelines. We have been able to glean some insight from our collaborations, as well as use these thought partners to think through our actions. I must say that no school system or organization has had all of the answers. We've all been required to create our blueprint for reopening schools. So let's start by sharing survey data. We thought it was important to survey our parents as well as our employees regarding our reopening considerations. And while this is not the only data that we're using to guide our decision making, it was important because our decision will ultimately impact them. So the next few slides include the results from first our parents, followed by our employees. And board members, you have the full survey in your packet for the parent survey. The employee survey does not close until next Friday. Okay, so for our parents, we have three questions to share. What is your current comfort level with schools reopening in August with safety guidelines in place? And about a third of our parents said they were either very comfortable or comfortable. And of course, we're hoping that their comfort level will increase as they learn more about our comprehensive measures for reducing the spread of COVID-19 if we are to return to a face-to-face model. The second question asked about their preference for how their child returns to school. So this is regarding our instructional model. And most of the parents selected a blended model that includes a face-to-face option as well as an at-home virtual option. 37.18% chose that option, but another 16% chose all face-to-face. And that was followed by 31% choosing all virtual. So the majority of our parents selected a blended learning option. The final question that we'll share this evening is how our parents felt we did in our abrupt transition to virtual learning in the spring. And so we can see here that they were to provide us with a letter grade of A through F, and 59% gave us either an A or a B for how we conducted at-home learning, followed by 26% selecting a C. Some of the areas that our parents shared in their comments to us on how we can improve is just they wanted all students, of course, their children, to have access to a computer device. So we're already working through that plan. They wanted communication to be earlier and frequent, and that's why we're starting the communication now, and having a standard schedule and clear grading expectations. So these comments, along with others, will be used as we scale our virtual learning opportunity in the fall. And finally, This, once you have the presentation, you can click on these links, but this question asked, what would prevent you from allowing your child to return to face-to-face learning? And they responded with an increase in COVID-19 cases, inadequate safety measures, and not practicing social distancing. Okay, so now I'll share the employees' feedback. These are preliminary results. Again, the survey does not close until June 29th. This slide shows the different roles of staff or employees who participated in the survey. We had approximately 3,800 staff members to complete it thus far, and it's only been open for a few days. And you can see here that we have an array of staff from classified and certified, but the majority of responses are from our certified school-based staff members, which reflect teachers, administrators, counselors, media specialists, etc. This question asked about, we shared our considerations that we're considering 4 instructional models for reopening, and we asked our employees to rank their comfort with each of the presented models. So option A in red is face-to-face, our traditional face-to-face model. Option B is virtual, where we are 100% at home engaged in virtual learning. Option C is a blended model, which is a combination of both face-to-face and at-home virtual learning. And then option D is for select students only. That's our virtual learning academy for parents who apply and who are accepted for their children to participate in at-home learning 100% of the time. Since option D is only for select students, I'm going to focus on options A, B, and C only. So if you were to look to the far right, when looking at comfortable versus very comfortable, the majority of our participants selected option C because that averages together for 53.13% chose option C, a blended learning instructional model. That was followed by option B, a virtual learning environment at 51.64%. And then finally, for the employee survey, we wanted to know how comfortable they are with the Clayton County Public Schools safety protocols that we described in the prior question, which would have been question 5. So how comfortable are they with our ability to implement that in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19? Some of those safety protocols included daily cleaning and sanitizing, social distancing, signage and expectations, and daily temperature checks or screenings. And approximately 64% of our employees either agreed or strongly agreed that we could implement those actions. Okay, so now let's get into the actions that our divisions are planning to support a safe and successful return to school. The next slides will include the actions as well as the details, and we will go into a little bit more details regarding our instructional model. We wanted to share this image with our board members as well as the public because it really shows how complex our decision making has had to be. There have been several factors that we had to consider, such as available resources, our community COVID-19 data, as well as the feedback from our stakeholders, guidance from healthcare experts, and then just what we're gleaning from our community collaborations. So it again has been a very thoughtful and critical process, but we feel that we have considered the best approach based on various factors. So at this time, I want you to really look at this slide because it reflects our most recent COVID-19 community data from the Georgia Department of Public Health and the Clayton County Board of Health. By tracking this data daily, we can gauge if the outbreak is growing, leveling off, or declining. And based on where Clayton County is as of yesterday's data, June 21st at 3 p.m., Clayton County is minimal moderate, which is based on our 14-day average. So our current cases are 1631, and you see our 14-day average is about 61.8 as of June 9th. I think it's close to 70 as of the 21st. And then our cases per 100,000 residents are 535. And you can see the rest of the information, total deaths and number of cases. So if you look at the scale to the right, our cases per 100,000 are 535. So we're following in the moderate, but also our 14-day moving average of 61 places us in minimal to moderate as well. And so we are tracking this data on a daily basis. Dr. Collier and her team, they're receiving the report directly from the Board of Health. So currently, Clayton County's risk level is minimal to moderate. With that in mind, we're going to share our proposed instructional delivery model and also share where we're leaning as a result of those decision-making factors and our community data. So on this screen, we have the delivery models. They're directly aligned with what the state released this month to provide guidance to school districts on how to reopen school based on their community data. This slide includes the instructional model to the left, a brief description, and then to the far right, the community data benchmark information. So I'll start just with option A. Districts are advised to implement option A, which is a traditional face-to-face model, if the COVID-19 cases are minimal to no cases. Okay, so based on our COVID-19 benchmarking data, and we're really looking at a 14-day moving average. And remember, our average was around 61 overall. So option A is for those communities with no cases to low cases, all face-to-face instruction. Option B is all virtual learning at home. So all students and all teachers remain at home to engage in teaching and learning. This is for districts with a substantial number of cases, so greater than 100 cases. Option C is a combination. That's our blended model. And based on the state guidance, districts were advised to consider a blended or hybrid model. So that is a combination of face-to-face as well as some at-home virtual learning. So for our school district, the way we would implement option C is that we would essentially divide our students in half. Half would come on Monday and Wednesday for face-to-face instruction, while the other half are engaged in at-home virtual learning, and then alternating for Tuesday and Thursday, the next half will come. This allows us to support social distancing, as well as just ensure that staff and students are, implementing the safety measures with minimal personnel and students in the building. And then on Fridays, all students will remain at home for virtual learning while staff members continue to report for face-to-face. Now on those Fridays, we will want the buildings to be deeply cleaned. We want staff members to receive the support they need for training, as well as time to plan high quality lessons for the following week. So this model is for those school districts with minimal to moderate spread with 6 to 100 cases. And remember, Clayton County was at 61. And then option D is for select students. This is full-time enrollment in our at-home virtual learning academy. So with this option, parents would have to apply because they want their students at home, even if the district as a whole implement a face-to-face model. And enrollment will be based on available seating, available resources, as well as parents and students' ability to support a 100% at-home learning model. Okay, so option D would run concurrently with options A and C since they involve face-to-face. So right now, the district is leaning towards option C based on the community data as well as other factors that I shared previously. So just quickly at a glance, because at any point we may have to move in and out of these models. If there's a surge in COVID-19 cases, we will have to move to a virtual learning at home option. If the numbers stay pretty consistent, we will implement our blended model of some face-to-face and virtual on alternating days. If there's a steady decline, we may move to a traditional face-to-face, but still include our social distancing and safety measures in place. If there is a school-based staff member or student who tests positive, then that school site or that classroom may have to move to virtual, even if the district is on a blended model. And if there's a school staff member or student who is exhibiting symptoms, staff or students shall be immediately isolated and follow the guidance from the CDC as well as Department of Public Health. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to toss it to Ms. Johnson, who will go through each division's actions for how we're going to support a safe and successful reopening of schools.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lee. Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Superintendent Beasley, board members, staff, and community members. I will discuss the actions that our divisions and departments are going to take to support a safe, secure, and successful reopening of schools. The following slides will include the actions and the details associated with each action step. Since you have had a chance to review the presentation, I will not review each action in detail. However, I will highlight some of the key actions that we will take as a district to promote a safe and secure learning environment for our students and staff. I will begin with the safety protocols, processes, and procedures that will be implemented at each school. School spaces will be modified to support social distancing practices. Desks and/or students will be spaced 6 feet apart in classrooms as feasible. Students and staff will be discouraged from sharing equipment and supplies. And to support this effort, schools will slightly modify their school supply lists for the upcoming school year. A protocol will be established for visitors who enter the school building. We will limit the number of visitors to 10 visitors at a time, and we will also establish guidelines for virtual and physical meetings. Each school will also have signage posted throughout the building to ensure that the safety protocols and expectations are visible to all school staff, students, and visitors. Schools will be equipped with medical supplies for the healthcare techs to utilize, as well as additional PPE items such as face masks, gloves, and disposable gowns. Our principals and maintenance team will work with our custodians to ensure that the clinics are deeply cleaned and disinfected on a regular basis. Our custodians will also be trained by the Clorox company to ensure that they are aware of the latest safety protocols and cleaning processes. They will begin deep cleaning the buildings in July. For our sporting events this year, we will limit attendance, provide digital ticketing as an option, and mark seats to promote social distancing. As schools work to ensure that our students practice social distancing as they transition to, from, and throughout the school building, the picture that you are viewing now represents how each school will be outfitted to meet the social distancing expectations. Visible markings will begin at the entrances of each school and will be placed throughout the buildings in places such as the front office, hallways, cafeterias, the gym, etc. Basically, our markings will be very similar to what you are now seeing at your local grocery stores, department stores, restaurants, Walmart, etc. Additional pictures were provided as visual examples of how the markings will look at each building. Our Student Services Department is in the process of updating the Student Parent Handbook so that students and parents have a working knowledge of the expectations for digital and virtual learning for this year. Our Student Services Department has been and will be instrumental in ensuring that safety protocols are communicated throughout the district and will serve as a resource for our principals and school staff when they have questions or need guidance in addressing safety expectations and practices. All students in grades K through 12 will receive a device to be used at home during their virtual learning time. All stakeholders, which will include administrators, teachers, students, and parents, will be provided professional learning opportunities to ensure that they can effectively utilize the technology and the Google Classroom suite. Breakfast and lunch will be served to all students each school day, whether they are learning face-to-face or virtually. The school nutrition team at each school will pack lunches daily and deliver lunches to our students in the community. Bus drivers will assist in delivering meals to our students who are working virtually. And finally, the student arrival and dismissal times will be staggered in an effort to promote social distancing on the bus. And our transportation team is going to ensure social distancing on the buses by reducing the loads to 24 students per bus. Students will also be assigned to sit every other seat, and the buses will be sanitized by the bus drivers between each run. Dr. Lee will now share important information regarding curriculum and instruction. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnston. So you all, in our two remaining slides. So for curriculum and instruction, the main focus is to ensure high quality instruction no matter which model we choose. So that does require training for all. So this summer, we've launched training for our teacher leaders, which may include our department chairs, content leads, those that really work alongside teachers to train them on how to effectively teach in a virtual environment, whether that's synchronous, live instruction, or asynchronous, self-paced instruction, as well as how to address students' learning loss without taking a remediation approach, but more so an accelerated approach. And then finally, the last item is around administering our beginning of the year assessments. We need to administer those assessments in order to glean where our students are with their data and potential learning loss so that that can inform our instructional practices. And then lastly, our virtual learning academy, we're still finalizing the details, again, based on available staff, resources, and parent interest. And so these are the steps when we unveil the application process that parents will take. Essentially, they apply online and take a readiness survey, and the readiness survey will allow them to assess if they have what they need at home in order to support an at-home virtual environment. We'll review the documentation, make decisions, and then in step 4, what's noted is that final enrollment decisions will be contingent upon the district's available resources, staff, and virtual seating capacity. So board members and all, you can see that there's been a very thoughtful engagement process in thinking through how we can reopen schools so that staff and students return to a safe and secure and highly engaging environment. We thank all divisions and departments and our community members, our principals, our teachers, all of those who gave feedback on it and responded to our survey. So at this time, we thank you for your attention, and we have other team members on the call ready to answer questions.
I have a question.
Hold it, Dr. Lee.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your presentation, you and Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, it was very, very well thought and very well planned, and I hope that everyone, for the public that's looking, you can find more information if you go online to eBoard. There's much more detail to what has been presented. And since her presentation is up, my screen, I can't see the everybody that's in the meeting. So
okay, I'll stop
before
sharing.
someone starts asking questions, let me be able to at least try to view everybody, because I want to just ask another question before you go on. Since you mentioned the available seating in the virtual academy, I would like to know, do you have a set number of students that you're talking about for the virtual academy right now?
So to date, Ms. Gorey, we have not finalized that exact number. We're still, again, thinking about the number of staff members who would be available to provide synchronous learning so that those students are not at home by themselves engaged in self-paced learning. So at this time, we do not have a set number. We just have a couple of scenarios that we're thinking through.
Okay, I just want to point out one thing though, in that I'm very glad that Dr. Beasley is proposing the virtual academy. And I know that you all have already talked about assessments. I know you all are, you've done your homework, and you're already, you all are very data driven. But I just want to put a few things out there as far as human nature is concerned. If our students come back into the school I know myself being a senior citizen that we have been sheltered in place for some time. And I'm just thinking that we might want to look at some other activities that are a little bit more engaging before we start with, to me, that assessment or testing, because I think, the children will just be anxious to just get back into the building and see one another. So let's keep that in mind. Dr. Beasley and I did meet with the other large school districts, and I'm hoping that we've heard a lot of different ideas, but I just want us to have some flexibility in that virtual academy, because if we have parents that are saying that they are not sending their children back at this time, regardless of what's going on in their household, then I can understand it, because I'm not sure that I want my grandchildren returning back, because I really don't, to be honest, I don't really care what the grade is now, whether they say we're moderate or whatever, because I just looked at the news, and the data that we're using is, it's behind a bit. And I know that, we will be checking the data every day, but I do know that the numbers are spiking, and I wouldn't be real anxious to send my child back to school right now. But I'm going to get off my soapbox because I'm a grandmother, and my grandchildren are very precious to me, and I know that everybody in the audience, their children are very precious to them. And I've been in the town hall meeting, and I've heard what teachers have said. There are some of us that are not ready to come out yet. So someone wanted to ask a question. I'm not sure. Was it Mr. Straker's voice that I heard? No, it wasn't you.
Miss Williams.
I'm sorry, Miss Williams. Miss Williams, what is your
I sound
question?
like Mr. Straker now. Oh my God.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm a senior citizen. I have a little hearing problem with technology, so I'm sorry.
I was going to ask, what is the deadline for us to decide which one we do?
Well, I'll let
what's the
Dr.
deadline for the date?
Well, the goal is, because the data, the health department is giving us weekly, we have daily reports, but there are also weekly reports. So as we get closer to, I will say on the other end of July, we're going to start 2 weeks out, we're going to start finalizing our decision. And that week before, and that's why our communication will be very important. The week before, we will let everybody know for sure if we're going to stick with option C or if we need to go to option A or B. So I just need everyone to, because the data is changing, as you all well know, on a daily basis, we need everyone to pay attention to the website, pay attention to social media sites, and pay attention to their emails, because everyone will get something in their emails, and always log into Infinite Campus if you have to. And then principals will be engaging their communities as well. So Ms. Williams, I think, to be honest, I'm thinking the week before August 3rd, we will have a definitive response as to what model. But right now we're leaning toward option C. And it has to be something serious. There has to be a grade change in the data to go all the way face-to-face or to go all the way virtual at this point. But anything can happen between now and then. So right now, I would say the week before the August 3rd, we're going to, on the front end of that week, early that week, we're going to send something out so everybody will know. And principals, of course, will be engaging their communities throughout the month of July and well until the first day of school, once we make that decision the week before. So I hope everybody can support that. I don't think that it would be too helpful to make a decision at the early part of July or even July 15th until we know. The closer we are, and that's why these presentations are very important, is so everyone can get an idea as to what way we're leaning, so they can be ready to help pivot with us on the dime. And that's why these models provide us that flexibility, because we know that whether it be in July or some other time of the year, we may have to pivot based upon the data.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
How are we going to do?
I'm sorry. One more question, Ms. Williams, and then I think I hear Mark Christmas. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Williams.
So if they start doing the face-to-face, the AB day, and then the parents don't like what's going on, can they just take their kids out and just do virtual?
Well, that's a good question, Ms. Williams. I will say, because we got a plan for that, we're thinking one semester at a time. So if they're interested in the virtual academy, while we still have to determine the number of seats, et cetera, I need them to apply now, because once we plan and make decisions, it's not that easy to just change in the middle of a semester. Not saying it's impossible. We'll do whatever we feel like we need to do, but it would be helpful for planning purposes for everyone to make the decision. And once we identify those who will actually participate, once we determine the seats, our hope is that expectation is that they will stay there at least for one semester, and then if they want to, move from option D to whatever option the entire district is implementing, then they would do that in the middle of as we go through a semester change, if you will. So does that make sense?
I was asking, I guess I was asking the opposite way. Like if the person wants to do the AC days or the B, and then they say, "Oh no, I don't like it," then they want to do the virtual.
Yeah, well, I would say my response would be the same either way, because we got a plan and we can't just, change from week to week, from day to day, and from month to month. We would do that at the middle of the year, at the end of the semester, the beginning of the second semester.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Christmas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Lee, Dr. Johnson, for the presentation. I enjoyed your presentation. Although there are some favors about going back to school, I just don't think we're ready. If they gonna open up the governor's mansion or the White House for touring, then I believe we'll be ready. But until then, I just don't believe that we're ready with our numbers spiking the way they're spiking. And I just think about the 56,000 students we have. And I understand we're staggering the days, and the asymptomatic people, we may have 500 students, and they come in contact with another student, they take it back home, and now we just completely destroy Clayton County. So we need to really, really, really think about how we're doing. I think your models are great, but I just don't think we're ready. Thanks.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Baker.
I understand, and I agree with, our number one safety is our children, and I love the models. I would have a tendency of doing an A/B day or Monday, Wednesday, whatever you want to call it, for one reason, and that is that we hear a lot on TV about how this has affected adults and how, oh my gosh, they're staying at home and how, it's changed their whole lives. What we're not talking about is children. And in just literally 24 hours, we took them out of school. We took them out of their routine. We took them away from their teachers. We took them away from their friends. And there's a lot of children. I've talked to a lot of parents whose children are having issues because all those things that they talk about adults feeling, the children are feeling it too. And so whatever we decide, we need to make sure that our children have some kind of support system that way. I mean, I have a friend who she had to take her child into the pediatrician, and now they're talking to somebody because this is very stressful. And while they're sitting at home, they're hearing about, oh, this plague and, these horrible, horrible things. So regardless of what one we pick, we need to make sure that we have some kind of support system for our children.
Dr. Simpson may want to speak to that, Ms. Baker.
Yeah, Ms. Baker, thanks for those. Ms. Baker, thanks for those. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Ms. Baker, thanks for those comments. You're absolutely right. I mean, we have to accept the fact that school is a refuge for many of our children. The face-to-face interaction from a teaching and learning perspective is very intimate. It's based on love, it's based on care, it's based on concern, and that's difficult to create and sustain over a device. And so when you consider our children, and certainly for those that have, as you stated, we went from that teaching and learning, that love, that interaction, that face-to-face, that relationship, which is very, very critical, to them going home and the teacher having to do all of what that is. And that's, thusly the reason why we're opening up and starting the school year out as a social emotional learning district. That is going to be very, 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 very critical for the success of our children. I think Madam Chair made mention of it. Yes, while we will be assessing the students, but we have to accept the fact that we have to talk about and speak about nurturing and how important that is, and assessing where the child is emotionally and socially. And so that is something that has to be created and can be created face to face. Now, obviously, the data will speak and drive our decision. But when we really, 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 I guess, narrow it down, it is very, very, very critical for us to be able to establish a relationship with those children, because you have to accept the fact that from March up until May, the reason that teachers were able to get the most out of their students was because of the relationship. They knew who those children were. They could easily pick up the phone and call a parent and say, Ralph has not logged on. But now we're asking, and we'll be asking for those that, if we started virtually, to establish such a relationship without even knowing the child or the children. And you all know many of our children, they do work for the teacher because they like or love that teacher. So just wanted to add a little bit to that, but we're tapping into the social emotional, and not just for teachers, but for not just for students, but for teachers and for parents and all of staff as well. Thank you, Dr.
Well,
Beasley.
let me follow up with what Ms. Baker said and what you just said, and go back to what I was saying to Dr. Lee. I just returned to work myself, and after being sheltered in place through June 12th. Now, I'm just going to say this. I'm looking at, your data. I'm going to say this. They are not ready to do dibbles the first day. The first thing that everyone will need to get accustomed to is wearing a mask. It is horrible for me wearing a mask. I also wear glasses, and everybody has been at home. Nobody's been in the classroom. We're talking about social distancing. We're talking about turning the desk all in one direction. They can't be facing each other. We got to change everything. So I'm saying social emotionally, there are some routines that the children would need to become accustomed to, which is practicing wearing a mask. Because I'm making an assumption that when the kids come back, well, I'm making an assumption because I'm not sure when you all were presenting that you said anything. I know you said PPE, but I don't know if that means everyone is wearing a mask. But I'm not sure how you all have been doing it. But every time I put the mask on, my glasses fog up. It's hard for me to function.
Yeah.
I see you laughing at me, Dr. Beasley, but I'm telling you, it's hard to function. I don't know what to do when I try to buy something at a drive-through. Should I have a glove on my hand? All of that type of stuff. And so these are the things that kids that they'll be needing to get used to now. We might need to take a vote. If they coming back, we might have to say no dibbles at least for a week.
We can do this, Ms. Lori.
Wait a minute, because we're looking at, we're talking about it. The option we're on now, they're only going to be in there for 2 days, but they're going to have to learn how to walk down the hallway. They have some rituals and routines that they're going to have to do. And so there are some things that we need to, wait a minute, y'all, I hear y'all trying to get in. I'll just be quiet in just a minute. I got to say all of this. Because the other thing I want to throw in there real quickly is mobility. Somebody just sent me a text message because we asked about virtual, because you know how our district is a little transient. So probably we have some people that probably might automatically need to just go straight to virtual. Once you all have established your A, B, however you all are rotating, but just to throw that in there. So I think you want to say something, Dr. Sampson. So come on.
Yeah, no, I was going to only add to the fact that the principals are creating essentially a day in the life of a student at their specific school and what that looks like. And that's going to include everything from when the bus pulls up in the parking lot, from where that child goes, ingress, egress, hallways, how they eat in the classrooms, cafeteria. All of that is going to be included, including in addition to that, about the mask and how that's to be worn. So we're not going to spare any details and specifics as it relates to the directions, but every school is going to have to create a standard operating procedure that's going to entail everything that's taking place operationally in a building.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask you this question. Have all of you all, since I know you all have been sheltered in place too, have all of you all practiced wearing a mask? Have you all practiced walking down the hallway in the school? Because I want you, we're putting all this stuff in place, and I want you all to practice what you preach before look. I see you, Dr. Beasley. That's real easy to do that at home. It's real easy because you know what I forget about when I have my mask on, and I've been eating. I've been trying to figure out. I got the mask on now. I got to figure out how I'm gonna eat. So
Ms. Gorey, I'm gonna let you figure that one out now.
Well, because if they're eating in the classroom and they're sitting, so But okay, Dr. Lee, go ahead, Dr. Lee, go ahead.
Well, Miss Gorey, I just want to emphasize that we hear you, and we totally agree that we want that beginning of the year to be a time for students and staff to reacclimate. And so we have purposefully pushed back any assessments. So they will not occur, not the first week, but even not the second week as well. And so that was feedback early on, even from our principals and our teachers. So we have pushed back the beginning of the year testing.
Okay, because you know how I feel about dibbles anyway. Ms. Bowles, do you want to say something? I see you reaching over there.
You, Ms. Gorey. Ms. Gorey.
I hear you. Go ahead, Ms. Bowles. I hear you, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you. I also appreciate the rollout of the plan, Dr. Lee, Dr. Johnson, and Dr. Beasley. I wonder, it was actually an assessment question. So in the absence of state testing, I actually think we are on the cutting edge of this as trendsetters, because we already we're focusing on our internal district testing as opposed to standardized testing. But in the absence of standardized testing statewide, are we still going to try to track our scholars' level of either understanding, learning, or growth through the MAP assessment? That is one of my two questions. Will students still take the MAP test?
Yes, Ms. Bowles, they will still take the MAP test, and we are actually adding schools this upcoming year because, as you probably know, we were only implementing MAP in a portion of schools. So all elementary, all middle, and all of our high schools will administer the MAP assessment 3 times a year.
Love it. Okay, thank you. My second question is, I think the budget reflects this too, but please correct me if I'm wrong or update me regarding our scale up of pre-K scholars. And so I think we were expected, another cool, innovative, important thing that we are on the cutting edge of doing is increasing access for early learners. What do we think? I know we've done a lot for thinking about our exiting seniors in the light of the pandemic. How do we think about our entering babies in the pandemic?
Yes, so we were working on a plan to expand the access, but we're actually going to work with our community daycares to ensure more of our students are exposed or have a part of early learning. We will not be adding additional classrooms this upcoming school year to our Clayton County's pre-K, but we are also looking at how we can use our virtual option to touch more of our early learners. So it is on the radar as a part of our redesign for the following school year. We're hoping to ensure more of our elementary schools have at least one pre-K classroom in the building.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Anderson, do you have a question? I see your mic is on. Dr. Anderson. I maybe can't hear
Ms.
you.
Gorey.
Her computer looked frozen.
Ms. Gorey.
Yes.
Yeah, I have several questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I kept getting knocked out and coming back in, so I don't know why. I don't know if it's my internet. But my first question is, I want to say, first of all, I would like for us to start virtual. I know that a lot of our teachers are scared. They have a lot of underlying conditions, and I really would like for us to start virtual. Just as you said, Ms. Marie, the numbers are spiking, and it will cost the system more money if one person becomes infected. So we definitely want to make sure that we, you know, that we're just careful. And I want our babies to be okay and everything like that. But another question I also want to reiterate also is I want to talk about plexiglass in the front office. I don't know if I missed that or if I didn't hear it because my computer kept going in and out. But how will we protect our front office staff, and will we have plexiglass placed in the front offices and in certain areas?
I think we have Dr. Smith and maintenance and operations here, Dr. Anderson. So let's pitch it to Dr. Smith and the operations team, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Beasley. Yes, sir. We are in the process of installing a drop-down plexiglass structure at all of the schools where we will be welcoming visitors and parents, and also at sites, some of the auxiliary sites that will require visitation from the public. So all of that's been installed as we speak. A sampling of the plexiglass was sent about 2 weeks ago, so our maintenance staff are in the process of installing those plexiglass structures. Mr. Thompson or Mr. Coley, is there anything you want to add to the comments?
Before you let that add, I also want to talk about cleaning. I know Dr. Beasley said something about with Clorox, we were going to have cleaning solutions for that. But I was also reading today about some cleaning solutions that, you know, let's say, for instance, if someone was infected with COVID and they coughed on something and then it went on a particular surface, that they have solutions that can keep the infection down, where the kids, if somebody touched it, they possibly wouldn't get it. So are we that advanced? Or are we cleaning to the point? Because I want to make sure when these teachers go back, when these kids go back in, whatever schedule you plan on using, if we have to do this, that everything is clean, sanitized, and that we have something in place where, you know, something similar to that in place. So if those students won't get infected.
Yes, ma'am. We have a very robust partnership with Clorox. They're going to provide.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am. They're going to provide professional development in terms of the latest techniques centered around responding to the COVID-19 sanitation process. And also they're going to provide videos in conjunction with our maintenance staff and the Clorox representatives. They're going to create posters that gives parents and students instructions on how to keep the environment sanitized. They're going to work with our communications department to push out all of this in conjunction with their marketing department, so we can make certain that the public understand that we're working with external experts in terms of ensuring that our buildings are sanitized properly and in response to the COVID-19 crisis, not just our routine standard cleaning practices.
All right, and then my last question, I'm gonna stop. I got one more question.
Oh, yes, go
what are we gonna
ahead.
do about campus kids? How are we gonna deal with our after school babies, campus kids? What plan do we have for them?
No,
So-
that's
Go ahead.
Dr. Lee.
Yeah.
I'll just start and I'll pitch it to Dr. Lee. We honestly, we're looking at that program right now, Dr. Anderson. And you know, parents pay for that, and we do know that many parents will still need the after school care. So we're looking at that program right now. And I think the numbers are, you know, normally, historically, sufficient enough for us to really do social distancing, et cetera. But I think that's more conversations we need to have. But right now, we do know that parents will still need after school care. So our plan is to offer that program next year as well.
But
Dr.
Dr.
Lee?
Beasley, that pretty much sums it up. We are
All
looking
right, thank you.
we're looking at offering it and then working with our schools just to ensure the safety measures are in place for the after school support. So yes, that's accurate.
Going
All
back.
right, I appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Going back to Dr. Smith in regards to the question about plexiglass, you said that we would, there are some areas, but I need to specifically know, will there be plexiglass at the receptionist desk for every school office? I am, where I work at, I am the receptionist in the office. And that is definitely a requirement for me when people are coming. So will we have this in every office? Or are you saying there are specific places that we'll have the plexiglass?
I'm saying that there will be controlled access points at every school facility, and those access points will have a plexiglass structure if there's visitation that's allowed. Like for instance, the counselor suite may be we may need to put some plexiglass in that suite because they may have the opportunity to have parents visit or students visit, and locations like that. So to answer to your question, ma'am, yes, indeed. Now, we're like I said, but every entry point to the building will not be accessible due to this crisis. We will limit where you can come in, and when you come in at that particular entrance point, you'll be in a situation where you'll be talking with someone, and we'll have plexiglass at all of those entry points.
Okay, the other question, since I think I heard you say Mr. Koger, and I had posed this question to Dr. Beasley today. I visited, I had to go to Kaiser today, and the nurse, we were discussing about the air conditioning and about how the air is recycled into the building. So can anyone tell me about the air conditioning in our buildings? Is it air that just comes back and just reflows, I guess, sort of like on an airplane, or do we know? Because I believe that there's another area that we need to look at, because I keep reading about that. And while I'm talking about that as well as cleaning, you're saying that we're going to do a thorough cleaning, but I'm just going to say this, and some of the custodians might be listening to me right now, but I don't want to call out some schools. There are some schools right now that prior to the pandemic that weren't very clean. I need, we need, first of all, it's got to be better than what people left, because I've had some teachers complain to me about the cleanliness of the building. So we really need to make certain that that it is thoroughly clean, where you can eat off the floor clean. That's what we need. But I'm sorry, I shouldn't have thrown that in. Go back to the air conditioning. Can anybody answer that question?
Yeah, I'll respond. This is Ronnie Joseph.
Thank you.
All our units have dampers that bring in outside air. So it's not a situation where there's 100% interior air recirculating. Every facility brings in outside air to bring in fresh air.
Okay, and in regards to any type of virus or whatever, have you all actually researched that information?
Let's I don't know if we researched that, but let's be mindful that the virus is transmitted like the flu virus, and we've dealt with the flu virus. This virus is just more contagious, and it seems to have a higher death rate, and we don't have a vaccine. But so I would just say that I don't know if any of our filtration systems are like what you would find in a hospital that doesn't circulate some of the air that's already been breathed in, but I know all of them have filters. So maybe the question should be, do our filters, you know how you purchase filters at your home, and you can get a filter that will catch viruses and things of that nature. Maybe that's something that the staff can go back and look at, just to give us a degree of assurance.
Okay.
But I do want to remind us all, as long as we're dealing with this pandemic, there is always a degree of risk, a certain amount of risk. We're just trying to mitigate the risk and ensure that we don't have breakout, that our schools are not the source of breakouts. And so we appreciate the feedback, but I don't want to give the community or anyone the idea that somehow our school system is going to get it down to zero risk. That's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah, we definitely know that won't happen. I just wanted, since you have given us an excellent presentation, and we see that we're basing the decision on the data right now. We just wanted to have the opportunity to discuss some of the information that's coming to us. And I know that you will be doing your presentation tomorrow, I believe, Dr. Beasley. So there will be more feedback to you. And just to let the public know that we haven't made a decision yet. We are weighing our options, and it'll be week by week decision. We'll be looking at the data weekly. So
I have one more question. Madam Chair.
yes, ma'am.
What is the update, Dr. Beasley, on the laptops? Like, when would the kids be expecting them? Like in the middle of the year, beginning of the year?
Well, Rod is scheduled to come and do a update. So if you will hold that question, Rod will share an update momentarily.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question right quick.
Yes, Ms. Burrows.
Will there be hand sanitizer around the schools?
Yes, ma'am. There'll be hand sanitizers throughout all facilities within the school system.
Okay, thank you.
And along that question, now I know that since they do want people to wash their hands often, I know with going into children's restrooms, do we have all of our faucets working? Do we have hot water? I just want to make sure everything is working. So those are things that everyone will be checking, correct, Dr. Smith?
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, when we team up with Clorox, they're going to select several sites to do audits, and they're going to give us a detailed instructional manual about how to clean and sanitize buildings thoroughly and daily. And we're also going to communicate those instructions to our students and our parents and our community.
Okay, and not only we're talking daily, we probably would have, I guess if Mr. Koger is on the line, we would be thinking about, wipe downs and all that type of stuff. We're doing it after so many minutes, or we'll have a routine like that as well. Is that correct?
All of that will be outlined in the instructional manual that will be developed in cooperation and with the Clorox Corporation, who have all kinds of scientists and experts in that field working along with our school system employees.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board?
One more.
Yes.
Am I understanding correctly that we have a plan for different scenarios, and right now the district is leaning toward C, but based on how many parents enroll their students in virtual seats, there could be a scenario where most students are in option D? Is that correct?
I'll say that differently, Ms. Bowles. So as a district right now, we're leaning toward option C, but regardless of option A, B, or C, we're confident we'll have some parents who will want their kids in virtual learning every day, all day. And so we'll offer that to parents for them to sign up so we can figure out exactly how many. And then regardless of the option A, B, or C that we'll do district-wide, that option D will be afforded to parents to run concurrently with any of the other options, regardless of how we start or where we have to pivot to throughout the year. I hope that helps.
Thank you. It does.
Okay. It looks like we can move on to the next item, Dr. Beasley.
Okay, we have Dr. Nunez team to talk about OLR, but if Rod could come ahead, will come first, since you all had a question about technology, which is directly related to our reopening plans. So if Rod Smith, our technology chief, we'll let him present, and then we'll go to OLR with student support services.
Well, good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Dr. Beasley. I presented from the technology department 2 items for your review. The learning management system, there's an executive summary that it just explains the overall purpose, excuse me, of a learning management system. The second item is a final report for our efforts around technology integration support for teachers. I'll go ahead, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, and answer the question relative to the Chromebooks. So we are still in a position where the vendor believes that we should have the best case scenario would have the Chromebooks here by the end of September. That's the best case scenario. And again, I know I've said this before that there are many school districts right now trying to get devices. So we're hoping that they'll hold true to that. If not, it could go into October. What I will say is with option C that you've heard Dr. Lee and Dr. Beasley speak about, we are in somewhat of a healthier position relative to the number of computers that we already have in the district, where we feel like we should be able to meet the demands with community support, meet those demands for those students who will need devices for option for the AB option. I'll answer. I'm happy to answer any questions about item 1, learning management system, or item 2, technology integration support for teachers.
Well, that makes me pause, because even if now, I was all for being a grandmother wanting the virtual academy, and I'm a little worried now when you said September and October, because that we need to do a lot of praying here now. So that's a little troublesome regarding those devices, but I do understand that everyone is trying to acquire devices for their school district. So
Okay, so I have a question now.
go ahead.
So if they, Dr. Beasley, if they apply to do virtual, but they don't have the equipment, and but they don't want the kids to go to school, will we still supply them the workbooks and paper to do home and bring it back to return?
That's a good question.
Or virtual is the only option with the computer?
That's a good question. The virtual, in order to, they have to basically sign off that they have certain things in place in order to do in order to do the virtual. That's because we don't have devices to give everyone today. So parents will have to have some responsibility in ensuring that, for example, kids have devices, that they're supervised, et cetera. And so if not, then those parents would need to participate in whatever model we're doing as an entire district.
They wouldn't be able to get the paper to take home if they definitely don't want their kid back at the school? Like they wouldn't be able to get like a work packet or something to do?
No, probably not.
Okay.
I think that if that's the case, if we're not even willing to allow like supplemental ways of education, we might end up losing students, because I think then if I were the parent and you're telling me no, I would probably just either go to homeschooling or.
But we're not going to do that, Ms. Gorey, because we don't want to lose our families. So we're trying to. So we hear you, and that's a good question, and we've thought about that. But we don't want to lose our families, because we believe that what we're doing in our school system is good for our families. And so we'll just have to, think through that. But I'd like the parents to at least sign up for the virtual academy, understand what the requirements are, and then allows Rod team to get to a point where I'm sure we'll start getting some devices rolling in here. So just work with us, because they're not going to all come at one time. I'm sure they'll come. We'll get some devices. Just work with us, and we're already right now looking at principals are working to see which kids, which families maybe did not participate in virtual learning in the spring, so they can become a priority. We're trying to make sure we address that equity issue there as well. So I would just say families work with us as we work with you all, if that be the case.
All right, I'm just saying flexibility, because I don't think that to me, virtual academies or virtual learning does not mean to me that you would always need to be on the computer, because if you're in an English class, you may be reading a novel or doing something to that effect. You wouldn't necessarily need to be on the computer, not unless we're just saying that you need to be logged in on a device to say that you're in attendance. I mean, because that could be, you could be logged in on your telephone or something to that effect.
That's correct. but remember, the virtual academy doesn't mean that the kids will be logged in every day, all day either.
Okay.
So that gives us an opportunity there. The point is that they got to have access to a teacher so many hours a week or so many hours a day. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any questions? Any other questions for Mr. Smith? If not, you all go ahead.
So the next presentation is the online registration, and Dr. Dunn is here to respond. I mean, I know you all have looked at the information, and we know it's getting late, and we've already discussed online registration, but in the event you all have questions or you'd like to get more information, Dr. Dunn is available.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Dr. Beasley, board members, community members, colleagues, and guests. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have from the presentation that was shared with you beforehand on online registration, OLR. In case you want to maybe add some addition to what we've done, and moving forward, what's going to take place. So I know that we do not have a lot of time, maybe 5 minutes to go over OLR. So I'd like to just begin, if I may, Dr. Beasley, with just opening it up to questions, if that's permissible, and I can share the presentation as well.
Thank you, Dr. Dunn. May I add that we need as many as possible because in particular, our new kindergartners, families who have never had a child enrolled in our school system, they don't get our emails. They don't necessarily, they're not necessarily connected to our social media platforms. So we just need to get the word out. And Dr. Dunn, if you will, at least share all the ways we're trying to get the word out to the families who will have kids going into kindergarten and or pre-K for the first time, and they may not ever have been in Clayton County schools with any other children, or this is their first child. How are we getting the word out to those families? Because we need them to use this process to get the young people, our young babies enrolled.
So that's a good point, Dr. Beasley. So as a part of our communications plan, it's a robust plan that's driven by that point in particular, to make sure that we're covering all media outlets, going into the community in terms of the recreation centers, the library, the grocery stores, our Family Dollars, our Dollar Generals, Walmarts, and placing flyers and posters there so that the parents will have an opportunity to learn about OLR and will actually know the process in terms of how to go into the system to complete their applications virtually. And we're also holding meetings with our community, and it's not just for those that are our current students, but those students who will be coming to us. And so the meetings are openly accessible to persons in network and outside. So those are the ways that we're doing, making sure that we have we're doing an overkill, so to speak, with communication, and leaving no stone unturned to make sure that our parents are well aware of OLR, the many attributes of it, the variables that can impact their ability to successfully complete OLR. And that is inclusive of our charter schools, working with them closely as much as possible to make sure that we are meeting their needs as well.
I would like to know, since we're using our media outlets, are we utilizing our own television station at the school district to our public?
Yes, ma'am, we are. And so that's how we've been engaged communication. So Ms. Gorey, it's a scaled approach in terms of communication, because we did not want to oversaturate in terms of pushing out communication at a time when the parents would not be paying attention to it. The manner in which we are communicating, it varies. It's not all the same thing all at one time, if that makes sense. So we began, with the communication out about the go live date of May 4th, and then we moved on to scaling it out from that point. Then we had another communication piece to go out exactly around June 1st, when we started to actually process our applications. And we have been communicating, with parents and stakeholders from that point on. And also we just pushed another media blurb out through our social media sites to make sure that it's accessible and in all venues. And we'll be pushing out our Clayton Daily News starting the week of July the 6th. So it will be advertised weekly, beginning on the 8th of July on Wednesdays, every week, leading into the first day of school. And also we are talking with the Atlanta Journal and Constitution about publicizing or publishing our events through their paper as well. It's expensive. So that's why we've not moved forward with that piece yet, but that is a goal as well, to make sure that at least in the Clayton County piece that we are communicating. So it's every media outlet possible. And not just that, but making sure we're putting the information in key places throughout the district, strategically placing the information out there where it is accessible to parents. And one of the benefits of OLR is the fact that it's web-based, it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Parents have the ability to go online and complete their application entirely. And then we're coming behind verifying what they put in, verifying their documents, and then going ahead and creating the line of enrollment and issuing an approval to move forward. So that's what we're trying to do to make sure that we're not, missing anything. And our committee has been very involved and active to make sure that there's not one population or one subgroup that's being left out.
Okay, is there a relationship between OLR and your residency verification process?
Yes, ma'am, there is. So when parents go into the parent portal to access their household information, that's the same route that they will take to, for our existing parents. And our new parents actually go through a link because they have to have their parent portal accounts created. But for our residency verification, they actually enter that site through the parent portal. So they go through the parent portal and select the residency verification tab that's listed there for them on that site. And that's how they begin. Now they have to have their parent portal access information. But if they do not have it, then we have a button there that they can click on that will take them to the link to request their information. And they will receive an activation key that they can then go in and reset their passwords. So, and Ms. Gorey, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I wanted to show this slide, and I'm hoping that you all are able to see this. So, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, awesome. So this slide in particular talks about, and that's the one that talks about our usage in terms of our parents having access. So when we began OLR in June 2020, we were looking at 29,000 parents with active portal accounts, and that's through the 1920 school year. So our goal is by the end of 2021 to make sure we have 100% of our parents with access to the parent portal. So that's one of our goals in utilizing OLR because that's the approach that we will take to access. So that means that not only will they go into complete applications in terms of the residency verification, also with their transfer process, and that's for those transfers that take place traditionally throughout the year, and withdrawals. So all of that will be done and processed beginning with the parent portal use. So that's the goal, to increase usage as a result of OLR.
Okay.
Okay, so that was just one of the driving factors. So I will just, if I may go really quickly, I'm just talking about some of the benefits and just kind of telling you what the processes are. So in our goals, so we wanted to basically streamline the registration and enrollment processes, increase accessibility for our parents, increase parent portal usage, promote communication, reduce costs, and save time. So and OLR does that. So an OLR means online registration, and it's actually campus online registration through our Infinite Campuses, which is our student information system. So the rationale for pushing this through quickly is because it met an immediate need in the midst of a pandemic and the shelter-in-place executive order. And it also allowed us to be compliant with federal and state legislation, and which we really need to do quickly. So the streamlined process is that the parent can, of course, complete a application quickly online in about maybe 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, as opposed to standing in a longer line, waiting to be called to complete their application and talk about their packets. Everything is done online. This is where we pre-populate our households. And the parents also scan their information into the application, or they take pictures of their documents and upload the documents. And I will say that the parents have utilized it so far. We've been successful with helping them through the process. They contact us through the website, the email address, and then thereafter, if they have questions, they email those questions to us, and our registrars then will return their phone calls or call them out just to make sure that we are able to meet their needs. So this increasing accessibility, this is the process here, the steps that the parents go through when they're new to the district to basically access the site. So of course, and I'm sure you all have seen the banner there on the CCPS website, and that's the beginning of that process. And it basically is 6 steps that it's very, it's fast forward for them in terms of accessing it. And a lot of times the parents just have to know where to go to find it. And so we realized that once we have made it where they can see it, it's visible, they can find it and go into the presentation. Into the site, and then they can access the link, which says your step 4 register now. And so it's really straightforward, but it's just making sure that they understand where to access it and understand basically how the process works. There is also a tutorial video on the site, and that video is here. It's located on the OLR site. Welcome to OLR registration, or welcome to Registration Central. And this video will allow parents, it takes them through the process. It's a parent's tutorial, and it talks about what they will have to do and the many things that they can do through OLR, like updating their residency through change of address, and also even entering student health information if there's something that's changed about the student's overall health and conditions that will require the school to administer medication or what have you. So what do we look like in terms of our registrations? Well, if we look at 2018, 2019, and 2020, we far surpassed what has happened in terms of actually processing all applications that have come through for registration. So we were at the time of this presentation, when it was developed, 1287. So that's the number that we are processing in terms of being able to make sure we're going in and verifying all the information for our OLR and for the parent to go ahead with their process of enrolling and getting the schedule created. So we far surpassed what we've done in any year prior to that with the use of OLR. And so that brings us back to this slide, which I've showed you, which is basically our motivation behind pushing it forward and really trying to get it active where it's functional. Because once the parents know how, then they realize that it's not a labor-intensive, cumbersome process. So I will stop here. I think I've talked really fast about the benefits, what led to our motivation, and just open it up to more questions if you have any questions about OLR.
Thank you, Dr. Dunn.
Good evening, Dr. Dunn. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I was listening to the question I wrote down was, what do parents do who need customer service support? And through your presentation, I heard you mention emailing, contacting the email address. My question is more about, I envision an online registration process may be tough for the very families who may not have or use an email address. Is there a phone number that folks can call and speak to a human, live, actual person? And not only for folks with tech challenges, but I'm also thinking about our scholars and families who do not speak English as their primary first language. What supports do we have for those students?
So we do, thank you for your question. We do have what's called our auto attendant that's actually being set up now. And so that auto attendant is connected to an external phone number that will be placed on our website. So we're working through technology with a company that actually works with maintenance and helping to monitor the calls that come in. And what this company facilitates is what's called a call hunter. So that means that when parents are utilizing that number, calling in to ask their questions, then the call is routed to the first available extension. That extension is attached to one of the registrars working with us this summer, processing applications for OLR. So that process, actually, Ms. Bowles should have been live now, but the company, we ran into some issues with the company in terms of how we were going to route the calls with extensions, because our registrars have district cell phones that they're using to communicate with parents. So that's going to help with that process in terms of the parents who do not have email access. They will have a number to call. And for our international families, we're working with the International Center with Dr. Normel's team to make sure that we're able to have access to translation support services. And that will be through a company that will be accessible to us, and that we will go through when we're having our virtual conferences with the families or when we need translation and such. So we have that in place as well. And we also have the International Center email address that families are able to use. We have parents that email us in Spanish, in French, and Vietnamese, and we're able to translate those emails that come in. So, so far we've been okay with managing that, but as this grows more, and it will as we get closer to the beginning of the school year, that external line, that phone number is going to be really key to helping us. So that means that there will have two landing boards for that. The first one that will route it to all those our registrars that are part of the process, because it'll be one of the options that they select. But also if they need translation services or they need to contact the International Center, then that will be another option that they're able to select as well. Or if they have a school choice question or a out of district transfer process question. So there'll be different options that they will have to select from. And that one should be live on Monday, this coming Monday.
Thank you.
And I know it's going to be out, but it'll still be there, and we'll place the information out on the website and push the communication out as well.
So the phone number we're working on and the international translators will both be available by next Monday.
The international translators are available now that we're utilizing. We're already utilizing those, but it's just the phone number. We have the number that's already in place. It's an existing number that we have. And so what they're doing now is just linking it to those different registrars. So we're going to be utilizing, we have 27 spots that we can use in terms of extension. So right now we will use 12 of those. And then we will add 2 as needed as we move along, because there are different things that we're going to gain from the auto attendant. And there's also data that we can gather from that. So we will build upon it as we're moving throughout the year. But in the initial phase of it, that number that we have, and I'll make sure Dr. Beasley has it to share, is just the external number that families will be able to use when they call in, because they do have questions and they do email asking about, well, I need someone to talk to. Can you call me? And I'm going to say that the registrars that are working with OLR have been very responsive in returning calls and responding to emails. So it's just a matter of knowing who has questions. And I think the landline number will help us out with that.
And right now, is there a number right now that we have available?
There is a number right now that we have available, yes.
Okay, so what I need for us to do is to make that number available right now, because I have been doing a lot of work for people, because no one's in the building, in that building. And what I have not understood is, and I know you all have been working, but it would be so easy, the numbers that we have listed on our Rolodex or whatever we want to call it, it would be so nice right now. And it's not just for you, but everybody that has a number. If those phone numbers were available for parents, and that those calls could just roll over right now to cell phones, and people answer the phone now, because it is very frustrating trying to explain about calling to the Board of Education and not being able to get an answer, because everybody is not, everyone doesn't communicate through emails and through social media and all that stuff. They're older, they're grandmothers, grandparents, and as Ms. Bowles mentioned, the people that don't speak English, we really need that access now. We really also need it on the front, at the very beginning of our website, so it's available, so no one has to try and look through our website to find it. I don't know who changed the website, but there used to be one little simple spot at the top of the website where you could click on it and it would show departments. And then you could go to each of the departments very easily. Someone took it off. It's hard for me to even, depending upon what device I'm looking at, it's hard for me to even get to the board. You'll have a link to say you can tune into this meeting, but it's hard to find it. So if whoever decided to take that off, I wish you all could put that back, and it would make it a whole lot easier for people to navigate the website. Because if you just using your telephone, it's a whole different view than when you're looking at your computer, or if you're using your iPad. But I do appreciate this new process, because it does bother me when parents come in with kids at the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school, that we in the past have been making them to go to 3 different schools when they could just go to one and enroll and be ready to start on day 1. Ms. Bowles, do you have another question?
The last thing I was going to say was I look forward to, when we were talking about the number being ready on Monday, obviously I echo the urgency, so the sooner the better, but I look forward to seeing what happens on Monday. Also because auto attendant, this could be me making assumptions, but auto attendant doesn't sound like a human person. And so I'm also concerned about, even with the new plan and the rollout of Monday's plan, if we'll solve or still send folks to operator. As we can imagine, folks are missing the opportunity to walk for office and see a human receptionist. So I was trying to problem solve for that. If the best we can do, given the pandemic and our tech challenges, is an operator, okay, I was just wondering if there was a way to, Madam Chair's point about humanizing the touch points a little bit.
Yes, there is. So the auto attendant is just the greeting. So once that auto attendant has picked up and you know the parent selects their option, then that's when they're actually transferred to a person. So that's just basically the greeting that's that's automated. But it's just like when they call into the when you call into the district and you have that the voice and then welcome to Clayton County Public Schools. So that's basically all that is. But they will be transferred to a person who's available to pick up the cell to answer their phone. And so that availability will be from between the hours of 8 a.m. and 7 p.m.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Johnson here.
Okay.
Hey, I've had a message come in from a part of the faith-based community and wanting to know if they could assist by having our online and having all of our information and putting it into their websites to promote registration for the parents of the people who attend that particular faith-based organization.
Yes, ma'am. That they can, and they should have received it already because it was pushed out to the faith-based organizations in Clayton County by the communications department. But I'll ask to make sure that it goes out again so that they can know how they can, help support that. And that's one of the benefits of having OLR, because our community members can support the process and actually hold, different activities at their locations where parents can begin their OLR application or complete it to at least get them to the place where they're accepted and a line of enrollment is created. So yes, ma'am, that can happen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there any other questions, board members? I can't see because until the presentation comes down. Hearing none. Nope. Okay. I think we're done with that, your part. Is that correct? With that part, Dr. Beasley?
That's
Okay.
correct. All the updates are completed. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're now into the consent agenda.
That's correct.
Okay.
So now we're ready for our financial report, Ms. Benton. And she'll do the SPLOST revenue report and the purchasing report as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Beasley and community. We have provided the board with a summary of the district's current financial status as of May 2020. Our general fund comparison slide is currently showing that the district's fund balance, that's the general fund balance, is 128 million. We can see that revenue for the month of May was approximately 31 million, and expenditures for the month of May is 37 million. And the board can see all of this is compared to our FY 2019 actual as well as our FY 20 budget numbers. These reports are presented as a part of the consent agenda. Are there any questions?
Ms. Burrows, do you have a question or is that just your mic on?
Oh, I don't have a question.
Okay.
My mic is on, sorry.
No problem.
The next report is the SPLOST revenue report. As the board can see, we are showing SPLOST coming in for the last 3 months, and you also have a very detailed report. You can see the monthly revenue collected for SPLOST as well as cumulative and average collection to date.
And I just want to highlight here, the board can see that the decline in SPLOST revenue year over year. So the next report that I want to just talk about is the purchasing report. So the board has for review the May 2020 purchasing reports. Reports A and B is for information only. And report A has the consumable purchases. That's report A, and we really don't have any this time. And on report B, you can see non-consumable purchases, which are over $10,000. Report C is the contract reports. And so I'm happy to entertain any questions at this time regarding the purchasing report.
Do we have questions, Miss? Miss Bowles, are you putting your light on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Benton. I am looking at the Minority and Women Business Enterprise update. I'd
Yes.
love to hear some of the activities or developments.
Yes.
Some of them look cool. Would you like to share?
Yes, so we provided the Board of Education with an update of for local small minority and our women business enterprise. And so there are quite a few things that are listed that we're currently working on that's listed out in the report. One of the things that I just want to highlight is a request for information that we're going to put out so that we can see what the pricing is related to diversity studies. In addition to that, we are working on partnerships with different organizations in the Clayton County area, including the airport and also others. And all of those organizations are listed there. Starting, and I think it's in August, we're going to have a virtual meeting and making sure that we're pulling in some of those partnerships at that time.
Thank
Are
you.
there any,
That's what I was most excited about. I'm really excited to see what comes of this and encouraging all partnerships and relationships to not make this be so heavy on us alone. So thank you for the update on this.
You're welcome. One of the things that I'm really excited about, and it's also listed in the report, is the social responsibility piece. And so we're looking at how we can ask or get answers to certain questions that we're looking for that's important to, I know, the organization, the district. So we're looking into that. And of course, when we get more information, we'll share it with the board at that time.
all right, are there any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Benton. At
You're
this
welcome.
time, Mr. Ronick Joseph will come with the SPLOST construction update report and our resolution for final payment for the Department of Education.
Sorry, I was muted. Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Beasley. You received the SPLOST construction update for the month of June. 8 payments were made totaling $7 million. 2 deductive change orders were issued for Brown Elementary, negative $37,508. The HVAC replacement, a negative $34,048. At this time, I'll be glad to answer any questions the board may have.
Are there any questions? I can only see about 6 people. So if you have a question, go ahead and turn your mic on. I don't see that we have any, Mr. Joseph.
The next item pertains to the DOE requirement for resolutions to certifying final payments for the projects listed on the screen. We are seeking approximately $6 million of reimbursements from Georgia DOE. Are there any questions?
I don't see any. Are there any questions?
No.
Okay.
All right, thank you all.
All right. Ms. Smith, I do believe that we need to take action on the consent agenda. That is correct? Ms. Sherry Smith, are we doing, I think we're taking action today, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, but you need to have the the personnel
I'm
report
sorry.
first.
Look, I'm so anxious to get out of here. Excuse me.
I know you are.
Mr.
Once
Wilson.
Dr. Wilson gives his report, then you can vote on all the consent
Come
agenda
on, Dr. Wilson.
items.
I'm having a middle school moment here. Is Dr. Wilson around?
He was just on the screen.
He should be
Oh,
here. I know he
Here
was
he
having.
is.
Looks like I see that the right emblem on that screen looks like the Falcons.
Yeah,
Here
yes,
he is.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Take it down.
First of all, good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, other members of the board, Superintendent Beasley, and community members. I do apologize having technical difficulties. My power is out due to the weather, so you should be able to hear me, but you may not be able to see me. So I apologize in advance. The personnel changes report summarizes all personnel actions for the period of May 15th through June 11th, 2020. As of the report, there are 265 teacher vacancies. For the same reporting period last year, there were 349 teacher vacancies. I would like to commend our principals as they're doing an outstanding job conducting virtual interviews and recommending candidates for hire. And again, I want to thank Safety and Security and Equity and Compliance for working with us collaboratively to get background checks done, although we're still experiencing challenges with COVID-19. Additionally, I would like to share that today we launched a virtual new employee orientation, which mimics the face-to-face sessions we were conducting when the district was open. It allows them the same information, provides contact information for those who need to contact the district. That was announced today, that platform will allow our new hires to submit all documents to make them eligible for hire. Additionally, through that, all information that will be shared typically for professional learning, that will be shared through the new platform, including modules on social emotional learning and modules on extending learning beyond the classroom as a part of their onboarding process. Finally, new teacher induction program information. Those are teachers who are in their first 3 years with us. They have an opportunity to complete modules there. An important part of this virtual process is that once those employees are onboarded and they actually are in their respective school or department, that department or division head will need to follow up with them face-to-face. And that concludes the personnel changes report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I'm gonna say, Dr. Wilson, that I am so proud of our staff, our principals, and this whole hiring process, because I actually know several students who have recently graduated from college, and they're going to be working with Clayton County Public Schools. They're actually some of our students who matriculated through the system, and they just raved at how they were able to interview virtually with the principals. And I've also talked to some of our staff regarding how well they've done in hiring staff. So at this time, are there any questions for Dr. Wilson? And I want to commend you for not having power and being diligent enough to still be involved with this meeting, because it's hard with these virtual meetings. People may not understand it. Are there any questions?
Thank you for those comments, and I do apologize for that technical issue earlier.
You can't help it, Dr. Wilson. You can't help it. Are there any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, seeing none, it looked like I was ahead of the packed, so we now have the consent agenda for action. The consent agenda is comprised of the financial report, the SPLOS revenue report, the purchasing report, the SPLOS construction update report, the DOE final payment resolution, and the personnel changes report. Do I have anyone that, before I ask for a motion, wait a minute, before I ask for a motion, do we have anyone who has an issue with the consent agenda that needs to have anything pulled? Okay, seeing none. So Dr. Anderson, you have moved that we accept the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
So moved.
Okay, that's Ms. Baker. So it has been moved and properly second that we act on the consent agenda. So I will do roll call, starting with Ms. Bowles.
Yes.
Okay, Mr.
Yes.
Christmas,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Burrows, Ms. Burrows. Just raise your hand then, Ms. Burrows, if you're
Yes.
all right. Okay, thank you. Ms. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Straker.
Affirmative, Madam Chair.
And that would be a yes for me. So that is a unanimous approval. Okay, so the next items that we have on the business agenda, if there is no objection to the next item that I see, which is policy series G, I would like to pull that at this time. We are going to need a call board meeting anyway. I didn't get any, we're supposed to vote on it tonight, but I would actually like to pull it. There are no objections. Or is there any objection to us pulling policy series G?
No. No objections.
Okay, so we're going to pull policy series G. The next item on the agenda is the final adoption of fiscal 21 budget and the spending resolution. I'm going to go ahead and let Ms. Benton present something to us.
Good afternoon. So the governor's FY 2021 budget hasn't been approved yet. And obviously the school district hasn't received any additional information outside of what has already been shared. So at this time, the superintendent is recommending a spending resolution for July 2020. As the Board of Education knows that by Georgia law, we have to have a budget passed by June the 30th. If not, we need a spending resolution. We have presented the board with the spending resolution. And so that's what the superintendent is recommending at this time. In addition to that, I just want to highlight two issues or two things that have come up. I know that I've received a number of questions from the Board of Education, and we've sent all of those responses back. We still have outstanding responses for Ms. Bowles, and we will send those to you either later today or early tomorrow morning. You'll have that information. But I just wanted to highlight two things that almost all board members kind of mentioned when they sent questions in. So the first thing is that as you look on page 16 of the draft budget, you can see that the salaries appear that they are higher in certain categories. And as I communicated to one board members or a number of board members that if you can remember the process from last year, I think our budget was approved in May of 2019. And so, as you know, we were still working on the compensation phase 1 for the administrative adjustment. And so by the time we got all of that detail worked out, we were well into the first week of July. And so that detailed information did not get in the original budget. And so while it may appear that there's an increase in salary, there's no increase in salary in the FY21 budget for any employee. And so if you look down there, I think it's on page 45, where you look at some of the superintendent's information as well as the Board of Education. As the board knows that we've transitioned to a new financial system. And so from a historical perspective, the superintendent salary package was not all on the same line item. So as you look, I think it's on page 42, where you see the superintendent base salary, it appears that there's an increase, but in essence, there's no increase year over year in the superintendent's base salary for the FY21 budget. It is the same salary that the superintendent had in FY20. And so I included when we responded to, I think at least 2 board members, we included the breakdown of the base salary and the fringe benefits, TRS. And so historically on that line in the budget, the superintendent's fringe benefits were not included in the line item. And so as we move to the new, our new financial system, we were able to capture the total package. And so that's why it looks like that there's a difference.
Okay, at this time, I want to let the public know that what we're about to do, we had on the agenda the final adoption. We're pulling the budget because the budget is, as Ms. Benton stated, it hasn't been passed by the General Assembly. So we are going to do a spending resolution. And I want to make it very clear, I did receive an email today. I'm still a little steamed about. I want you to realize that there are 9 members of this board, and all 9 people are looking at the budget. We are very concerned. We know that is one of our main responsibilities. We are not trying to hide anything. We are considering everything that you are sending in. And another reason for pulling the budget is because after we did the last presentation, I received quite a few emails, as some of the other board members did. We had suggestions from the public about things that we could do. And in all fairness, in order for us to consider those things, we should not vote on the budget tonight. We need to take those things into consideration and have further talks about our budget. So just want you all to be very clear that we do take this very seriously, and therefore we are going to vote on a spending resolution. And if you have still any other comments that you all would like to make, or emails, please feel free to do so. And please, it would be very nice if you would have some contact information or either respond back, because if you send something to us, and we would like to respond to you respectfully. So at this time, I will take a motion for us to adopt the spending resolution as opposed to the final budget for the next month. That will be for July, and by that time we will have everything in place that we need to put in place. Do I have anyone that will be willing to make a motion?
Madam, so moved.
Thank you, Ms. Baker.
I second.
Okay, it has been moved by Ms. Baker and seconded by Ms. Johnson that we will vote on the spending resolution. Ms. Bowles, I see you were touching your.
Yes, ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
With the spending resolution, what happens next? Will we have more? I think I saw something, and I could be mixing up the documents I've received or been looking at. Are there more budget hearings after the state does their decision?
No, we don't have budget hearings. What we're doing with the spending resolution is we're just operating on July based on. So you're gonna have to help me with the percentage, Ms. Benton.
1/12 of the school year, right? For 1 month out of 12.
Yes,
but I wonder what we do next.
Yes, just for the 1 month. And then the other hearings that we have is in regard, we do have hearings coming up in July, but those are for the millage rate, which has to do with our tax base. So what's the percentage of the budget, Ms. Benton? It's on if you look in your.
Yes, it's Ms. Goree, it's 112. So
Okay,
it is-
112.
Yes.
So my question is then what? Do we do this each month until the state does theirs, or do we do this month to month?
We are doing it until the state passes their budget. They will have to pass their budget I don't know what the number of days, but it has to be, they have to pass it before we go into, I would say before we go into July. We are going to have a called board meeting to vote on our budget. We're just doing the resolution because we don't know if we'll have a called board meeting next week. Right now, we're looking at a called board meeting on July the 13th, but we need to, have an agreement between all of the board as to whether or not we'll have a quorum, but we will have a called board meeting to actually vote on our budget for next year. But the document is in your board packet.
Okay, I think you answered my question. I just wanted to be sure there was another opportunity to talk as a board before the final, understanding that the resolution is for month to month.
Yes, as a matter of fact, that we already have set up some. We'll probably be setting some meetings up to have that discussion. If you are to look at, we had quite a bit of correspondence today regarding the budget. That's number one why we don't need to pass it, because everyone needs to be clear on what it is that we want and need. So actually, I know I have actually kind of violated Robert's rules by answering the questions, but I want everybody to be clear, and I want everyone to know that we are being transparent and we're not trying to hide anything. We want to be transparent. And then that way we also will make sure that we post it back on the website so that the public can see it. And I also want to make it clear, one other thing, since I'm in violation of Robert's rules, about what we posted. There was the email that came to me said something about why wouldn't we post the complete budget? But I want you to know that what we posted, there are still about 70 schools. And so, each school also has a budget as well. So we're not trying to hide anything. It's in a summary because when we're looking at instruction, we were just grouping everything under an instructional item. So let us move on, and I'm going to take the vote if there are no further questions. Starting with you, Ms. Bowles.
Yes.
Mr. Chris.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Ms. Burrows.
Yes.
Ms. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yeah. Yes.
Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Straker.
Affirmative, Madam Chair.
And that would be a yes from the chair. So we are approving the spending resolution. A unanimous vote. Now, so that I'm not real happy, I want everybody to look and make sure that I have covered everything on the agenda. And I believe I'm gonna ask Ms. Smith, is everything all clear, Ms. Smith, since this is your last meeting?
This is it.
All right, all
Yes,
right.
ma'am, it's done. I do need to get with you to sign documents tomorrow.
I know I need to sign some documents, so
Yes,
I will
ma'am.
come and find everyone. So,
Okay.
So at this time, thank you, Board of Education.
I'll be
Thank
there.
you, Clayton County staff.
Good night,
We are
everyone.
adjourned.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye,
All
Miss
right.
Sherry.
Good night.
Bye,
Bye,
Miss
Miss Sharon. Last meeting.